Hello, students. Good evening to all of you. In the last few days, I have been interacting with a lot of mains aspirants who have just written who have just written the mains, and sure, I have been getting a lot of mixed feedbacks. And in hindsight, we all tend to overthink a lot. So I'm sure you are also in that process. But I want you all to come out of that very soon. And the title, as you can see, of the session is that it starts today, and there are reasons why I'm saying this, that your interview preparation starts today. Because, see, earlier what used to happen that UPSC was releasing the interview schedule in phased wise manner. Now UPSC has been releasing the schedule all at once. So last year what happened was UPSC released the schedule on 20th December. On 8th December the results came in. Between this there was a period of DAF filling, and from 7th of Jan, if I'm not wrong, the interview process was started. So there were students who got their name in the first slot. So there were roughly around 300 to 500 students who got their name in between 7th Jan to 10th of Jan. Roughly what they got was 15 to 20 days at best to prepare. Now imagine this, anybody who just gets 15 to 20 days to prepare, and DAF has, of course, your 7 ABCD aspect, it has your states, it has the optional, graduation, and so many other aspects. What situation that candidate would be in? Candidate is in the last stage of the examination process, right? So definitely, I don't want you all to go through this. And secondly, what has happened this year is, for the first time, 90 to 95%, I would say 90% of your DAF has already been filled, right? So you're only left with states and choosing the cadres. Otherwise, your hobbies, your graduation, your optional, your home state, these are filled by now, right? And you can't change it. So for the first time, UPSC experimented this year for this batch. Now imagine the competition that it will increase, because earlier, after 8 December, only you were allowed to fill the DAF. So before that, people had no understanding of what a DAF is. Now, I myself on this platform of Civilsdaily have taken at least 4 to 5 DAF sessions and comprehensively have explained DAFs. And I think everybody in the industry has spoken something about DAF filling. So imagine the competition this batch has, because everybody has some idea of DAF questions and how questions from DAF would turn out, right? So it is going to enhance your competition this time, and that is number two why you should be starting today. So I gave you two very important reasons why after 5 7 days of mains preparation, of mains examination, we should come back to this process of interview. There is no point of thinking too much on how the mains went. If you think that it was actually decent, please start gearing up for the interview preparation. I'll tell you in the coming slides how to go about it. And of course, I have shared one link in the description. You can just fill that, and we can obviously sit and talk, probably offline and online, about the one-to-one steps. Okay. So if you see the last year's result, I would want to highlight this part. How many of them? This is the list of top 18 students. Okay, and top 18 students, if you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 out of 18 students have scored 200 plus. Imagine. Imagine the weightage of personality test, right? They are, of course, they have scored 200 plus despite scoring very good in mains. All of them have 800 in mains, obviously. Nobody will have 700 here. Despite having 800 in mains, 7 of them have scored 200 plus in the interview. To become an IAS officer, you have to excel at all three stages. Otherwise, you miss the chance of becoming the IAS officer, right? You might get into the list, but if you have to be in top 20, top 50, top 70 IAS rank, you have to do very well in your personality test. You cannot miss this stage at all. You cannot take this stage lightly because it tends to decide your IAS rank and dream and everything. We'll, of course, go more in detail as we continue this session, but I just wanted to emphasize on this fact. And if you also see, only two students have scored 162. Only two students have scored 162 and 173. So, which is also an average score. It will not be 173 is not a bad score. It's an average score. Considering the competition is so high, and almost everybody has scored 180 plus, and 7 of them have scored 200 plus. This is top 18, and this is a trend you will see across the list. Across the list, you will see students performing good in personality test also. That is why they have gotten IAS or their desired services. So for IAS and IFS, the competition is very high, and whatever you have done in mains, you have a legit chance of improving your marks here. See, there are only very few stages in this examination, or very few papers where the margin of marks are very high, right? One, you have the essay paper, you have ethics paper, and you have this stage, personality test or the interview. I'll say interview, otherwise somebody would get confused with prelims. Here, a candidate can vary. The marks fluctuate a lot, right? So in interview, anything from 160 to 210 is possible, or even 150. Okay, let's say 150. You see 60 marks. 60 marks. As a UPSC aspirant, you understand what 60 marks can do to your life, right? And you have a great chance of improving this. And again, as we continue this, I'll tell you that your background really doesn't matter. So a lot of you have this fear that I'm not coming from a great background, sir. I've been locked up in a ORN for 5-7 years, and this probably would be my first chance of even wearing a blazer for the first time. I've seen students who were dressing up in a blazer for the first time because they didn't get a chance ever in life, because all their 20s were gone into this examination. It's such a brutal exam, and there is a lot of fear of missing out, that my counterparts have had so much of exposure. A lot of them are already in the services, they are attempting to re-improve, and a lot of them are coming from great corporate backgrounds, so they must be better speakers than me, and these fear are legit. But I am here to assure you this, that none of this matters. None of this matters if you do it correctly, if you do it smartly, right? Soumya, yes, coming. Sure, I'll be advising current affairs also. Just hold on and please continue with this session. I'll tell you about that also. Okay. So to be here, you have to be very good, and you cannot take interview lightly at all, because the margin is so high, that the competition is so high, that to become a top 50, top 20 IAS officer, you need to score 200 plus here. There is nothing, there is no double thoughts that you should be having here. See, so of course, you can find your name in the first slot. That's very much a possibility. And I have already explained to you what happens, how last year, there was this candidate who found his name in the very first slot. His interview was in around 8th or 7th of Jan. 7th or 8th Jan was his interview. And you can already see how extensive his DAF is, right? He, of course, wrote Hindu pilgrimage sites, right? He also wrote about misinformation around drugs. And obviously, he was an Ayurvedic doctor, or you can say homeopathy doctor, a doctor who is basically coming from Ayush, right? So, a lot of questions on MBBS: what's his homeopathy, what's his Ayush, etc., etc. it was obviously expected, apart from his state, apart from his optional, which was different from medical science, and obviously Hindu pilgrimages and misinformation around drugs and probably badminton also he wrote. So naturally he was very panicked. He was panicking, and yeah, he said that, how do I go about it? It's just in 10 days, sir. I was not expecting my name in the first list. Let me tell you, he got a rank. So he got a top 200 rank, top 250 rank. So it's not like that rank nahi aati first stage pe aane ke baad. It's not like that. But of course, that anxiety, that pressure of performing, that will ease out if you start it right now. That's my point. And because you have an advantage, you have your 90% of DAF already in front of you, there is no harm in starting at this point of time, so that even if your name comes in the first slot, even if your interview is in next 10-15 days after the release of the schedule, you go there comfortably and go 200 plus, right? Otherwise, the competition will kill you. This competition is going to kill you, because this time you will see the increase in 200 plus marks, because AI is there at its best almost. It can give you any answer, any opinion, etc., etc. DAF analysis, obviously, they are very good mentors, and of course, nobody wants to lose the game of this interview process also. So, the competition is going to increase only, and it's great to start at this point of time. What I wanted to tell you, that there's a lot of static portion in your DAF that you can master. Okay, almost uh, 85 to 90% of your DAF is the static part. By static part, I mean the state, right? The history, geography, economy, the usual issues of the states. I'm not saying the recent current affairs, but the usual issues of state. If I say Delhi, you would know the issues of Delhi, right? There are evergreen of issues of Delhi that keeps on recurring every year, every year, every year. Pollution being one of them, right? So your state will have some recurring issues, which becomes a part of static. It will have a certain economy, it will have a certain culture, it will have a certain society, certain polity, certain demography, right? So that becomes your static. One. Second, your optional. Whatever optional you have, you're expected to know about each and every point in fine and nuanced manner, right? So be it PSIR, be it socio, anthro. So there are, of course, there are static as well as current affairs things to be tackled, right? There is your optional and your graduation subject. So all of this will constitute in the static aspect, right? So because it will become the static aspect of your DAF, and you have these 3 months, and there is no harm, revising these static parts, so that when you come to the difficult part, which is the opinion making, which is handling the current affairs, you at least have your 80-90 preparation percent of preparation done, right? That is why these 3 months are important. You're fresh out of mains. Another point, yes, you're fresh out of mains, right? You're absolutely fresh. You have data points, you have conceptual clarity, you have examples, committee, way forward. You have crammed, understood everything under the sun in the last 10 days, right? So use this opportunity. Don't sit idle. At least keep covering your static part. When you come and sit with me, I'll tell you that these are your static parts of your DAF. At least finish this. I'll also give you a way forward, how to finish this, right? And of course, so mentorship doesn't happen. It's not something that I can do in 1 or 2 days with you, right? I'll tell you why mentorship is different in interview. Interview is just not about giving mocks and going to UPSC Bhavan on the D-Day. No, it's not like that, right? So there is a structured mentorship that you have to undergo if you have to score 200 plus in the interview. Unless you are exceptional, you have had a great exposure of life, and etc., etc. Those elements are obviously there. But most of you would want a guidance, a mentorship, a structured method of interview preparation. You just can't be relying on the mocks. Mocks are very important, 100%, but not before you are prepared, right? You have to prepare a certain way, you have to give mocks, you have to come back to the mentor again, and then probably have to decide on the number of mocks, That is the process. And everybody knows this process now. And it is even, as I said, the competition will be 10x more this year because everybody will have the DAF prepared beforehand right from this month. So sensible aspirants are not wasting time at all. They're not thinking because what's done is done. You really can't control your mains result. But what is in your control is the interview preparation. And after a week break of mains, sincere aspirants would sit on their app 100%. Even if they're planning a next attempt, they would divide their day 50-50% for next attempt as well as the interview preparation. Because what if their name comes? So they have to be interview ready for that also. So smart, sensible aspirants use this approach. Okay. So static portion, at least this in next 2-3 months can be covered. Right? Take your break. Of course, I'm not saying start like literally today. No, of course, you can, it's very subjective for you all. Mains must be exhausting. Take a 7-10 days, 15 days break, whatever suits you. But do start this month. Do start this week. Otherwise, competition will go ahead and you will lose. It's like this only in this exam. Okay. Second point I want to emphasize is that come out of the mains mode. Right? Mains mode is, see, interview and mains have a difference. Mains, you have 7 to 10 minutes to answer, right? Here, and of course, 20 questions, 4 papers, optional 9 papers, everything. Here, the show starts and ends somewhere between this time frame, 30 to 45 minutes. That is it. These 7 to 10 minutes would roughly be 30, 60, 90 seconds. Right? You have to give your opinion, a follow up, counter follow up, closing the loop, nudging the interview, driving everything in this time frame only for a question so that next question can be asked. It's difficult. Try this as an exercise also. Whenever you are asked to write in less words, or you are asked to say something in say 30 seconds or 60 seconds, because we know it all, we have a lot of knowledge on, say, secularism, on democracy, on society, on caste. I have so many things to write and say, but what if I say whatever you can in 30 seconds and give me the best point out of it? Then it's difficult, right? Because you have to be absolutely articulate and on the top of your game. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. It doesn't work, right? So, coming out of mains mode is very important. You can, of course, use your mains mode. Use your mains mode. How will you use it? You already have concepts, data, say examples, of course, way forward, lot of things, lot of case studies you might have read, right? It is time to use this mains knowledge, but in a different format. Now I want you to go opinionated. So once you start the mentorship, I will take you to that stage where you are capable enough to develop opinions. Right now, you will not be able to develop opinions at all. But if I ask you about caste census, you won't be able to take one side on that. I'm 100% sure. If I ask you, say, Soumya, what's your opinion on caste census? Because you're so used to of knowing the both sides, you will tell me the both sides. There is no harm in that. 100% you should know both sides. But interview demands mostly at times that you say one side with absolute conviction and clarity. And that is why it's a different exercise, right? So mains has taught you both sides. Now when you sit in the mentorship process, when you sit with me, I spend a lot of time with you understanding your political ideology. See, a lot of us think that we are ideologically this, but from our heart, when we introspect, when we spend some time with ourselves, or when we introspect deep within ourselves, we understand that maybe we can differ on the ideology we thought that we are in. right? So on society, I might be center to right. On economy, I might be center to left, right? And it doesn't happen overnight. You have to sit. You have to sit with me. You have to sit with a mentor. You have to discuss. You have to internalize the discussion, and then probably you'll know. Okay, on a lot of society issues, sir, I'm center to left. I thought I'm right because I'm politically right. So I thought because I'm economically right, I'll be center to. I'll be socially right also. But it's not like that. Sir, on defense, I'm this, but on sir economy, I'm this. This is something, it takes time. It takes time to know yourself also. It's not easy. It doesn't happen overnight, right? So this process is very important, knowing the ideology. So mains will definitely help. But once I know that Soumya, you are this, Soumya, on societies, mostly I see you tilting to the left. On economy, I see you tilting towards the right. On defense, I see you tilting towards right. On IR, probably you are balanced, you are neutral, you don't want to take up a side. Those are your fear points also, right? That happens when I discuss them in great detail with you over and over again, right? And that is when I understand this, and that is when you will come out of the mains mode and be mock ready. And then mock is a different setup altogether. What aspirants are doing is they are directly coming to the mock. Somewhere they're living in MP, UP, Bihar. Their name comes, their date comes. 5 days before the date, they're coming to Delhi, attempting few mocks, and directly going to the Dholpur house. There were times when people used to do that, and it absolutely worked then. But now it doesn't work like this. It does not work like this. If you ask an officer 10 years back, they used to do this. But now it doesn't happen this way, right? So understand this and implement this properly. Come out of the mains mode and form opinions. This will happen when you come to the structured part, that's mentorship. Okay. Now, how it has to be done, obviously. A lot of you have to have a structure for this process. It cannot happen without a structure. For instance, Lavanya, she scored, say, 788 marks in mains and 209 in the interview. 209. She's a top 60 IS only because of the interview, right? And trust me, I've sat with her so many times, almost every day during the interview process. We had conversations for hours and hours. I used to discuss her opinions. And every day, on every single news that she used to read, she used to discuss the opinion. Be it polity, be it society, be it economy, be it religion, be it intersection with his DAF, with her DAF, everything, right? Structure. Since she was a techie, she used the AI also very well. But you just can't rely on AI only. You have to have a humane feedback on that, right? Because AI given answers are not the answers that are coming from your heart. And Lavanya also has took her own time to discover her side of ideology, right? She also went through the evolution of on the thought process. Her answers on day one were not the same on day 200 or 190, whatever, 3 4 months she spent, 5 months, right? So this is important. A structure is very, very important. So Soumya, this is what I'm telling you, that current affairs are important. Of course, we can handle that in probably 20 days also. But once the static part is gone, once you are not utilizing these 3 months for the static part, then it will be very, very difficult for you to actually get into a top 50 IS rank, because the competition is very high, not because it is not possible. Competition is very high. You will do your best, but somebody will do better. Simple, you will be eliminated, right? So structuring is very important. There has to be a guidance, there has to be a process. It can't happen without that. I'll give you another very good example. Before I come to this point of opinion making, I'll give you the example of Aditya. Okay. Aditya scored, for that matter, 205 in the interview, right? And he had a wonderful mechanism of dividing his preparation. Okay. So he had a Word document. Okay. He had a Word document where he used to write all the questions that were asked to him in the mock or one-to-one sessions, including mine. Then he used to go back and recall whatever he wrote, or he used to record the sessions. Okay. So his answers, what were his answers to those questions, and what could be the correct answers, right? So it was a three-way process that he did, and he divided his DAF into elements, say law, okay, CA based law, Delhi, etc., whatever were the components of the DAF. Okay. And all the questions and his answers, he used to come with me and discuss them. And we used to somehow find a middle ground that, okay, Aditya, this probably seems to be the right one. So go with this. Hence, countless hours discussing. I can totally resonate with this. Countless hours he discussed with me, right? And that is how it happens. That is how it happens. Without structure, this is a beautiful structure. I'm definitely thinking of replicating this with this year mentorship students, 100%, right? 100%. A lot of time and effort and expertise goes into this. So it's not like that everybody can replicate a lot of things. Even if you copy our stuff, even if you replicate our stuff, you can't bring in the expertise. It's as simple as that. You can't be me or our mentors, right? So it is what it is. And a lot of wrong advisors are just floating in the market. They'll say, okay, people are right wing, government is right wing, so you give all your answers right wing. How rubbish. How rubbish. Are you there to please the board? Or are you there to express your heart and your desire to go in the services and they should be rightly judging you? How can you fake your ideology? How can you fake your appearance? How can you fake your personality? There's a reason why this is called a personality test and not some other name is given to this. You probably can fake in the other stages of this examination by probably working hard or cramming anything. But how do you do here? You just have 30-40 minutes with the board and you're live there. And they're seasoned people. More than your age, they have had the experience of the services. How do you fool them? You can't, right? So be very honest, prepare this with a structure under the mentorship. That's the only way to score 205 and plus. I'm telling you, there is no other way. Competition will kill you otherwise. Okay? Come with me, sit with me, and let's discuss this one-to-one, online, offline. As simple as that, right? And use these next 3 months to at least cover the static part in the remaining 20 days. So, Soumya, now I'll answer your question. If I ask you to prepare, say, tariff right now, okay, the tariff thing, when you sit in the interview, would have evolved so much that probably the current context would not remain relevant. So current affairs are something that has to be prepared within the time frame of relevance. Current affair nearby your interview date, a week before, a month before, probably a day before, on the same day. News around that time frame become super important. So obviously it's not like mains that or prelims that you have to go 6 months, 1 year, 2 years back. No. So current affairs are definitely important. They're crucial 10% that can actually decide your fate. But more than that, if you still cover 80 to 85% of your static part, you will never fall below 170 or 160 at worst. I can assure you this. So at least safeguard your 170. at least safeguard this, because I have seen brilliant of students, like I won't name them because for obvious reasons, but brilliant of students, brilliant backgrounds, they could not score 150, more than 150 or even 140 I have seen. And I and other mentors obviously were at absolute shock. How? But we don't have these answers because we don't know what that person did in those 30 minutes there in that room. Sure, there could be the external factors, but how can marks vary so much? One possible explanation is not covering the static part very well, right? So if you have this 3 months extra, I would say consider this as a blessing, because people earlier didn't used to have this time. Now you have 90 days extra, right? So at least you can go through your static portion very well, and you ensure that you are not following below 170 or worse 160 at any case. Current affairs, opinion making that you do with me, and obviously as you mature in the interview process, it will help you cross 200 plus. No rocket science. Everybody has done it. Most of them have done it. See, in top 27 of them have done it. So it's definitely not a rocket science, right? It is very much doable. It is very much predictable, but you have to approach it smartly. You have to approach this smartly, right? Very important. So, as I said, there is a structure, there is a process. Now I'm coming to this part that newspapers, although are a very good source for the interview, almost the number one source, but it is not enough. It fails when you don't understand the utilization aspect. How do you utilize the news? Okay, and reading of news has to be changed. Till now, for prelims and mains, you were sticking to a syllabus. Roughly a syllabus, right? Even though that is a very vague term in prelims and mains context, but you still had current affairs of national and international importance given to you. At least this. Here, there is no syllabus, right? So the news that you were not reading before, probably politics, sports, or even some big event like an Ambani wedding, which you think that only commoners do, you have to read now. Anything that is happening in your state, in your district, becomes important, right? Though the big breaking that these TV media guys keep on flashing is important. The Twitter trending things are important, right? So newspapers definitely are not important, not enough, but it is a very good source combined with all the things I just mentioned. And if you're not taking a feedback on them, if you're not giving a mock on before that, it's all worthless, right? So newspapers are not enough. Opinions would matter 100%. Opinions, without opinion you will never get the extra edge of 200 plus. Without opinion you might score 170, but this will only come when you are great in your opinion making skills. I have seen no candidate not good in opinions and not scoring this. No one. Okay. Everybody who was good in opinions could score this. So there is a process. You learn, you do your static properly, you apply your mains knowledge, you come under a structure, you revise, re-revise, keep on talking, keep on improving, keep on speaking, do mocks, come back to mentor, do the same cycle until and unless you know that no question from law will confuse you now. You can answer anything under the law, like law optional guys I'm talking about, or anything under PSIR you can answer. When you have that confidence and when you know that this is truly who I am with respect to ideologies, you will never fail. You are bound to go to 100 plus, even if the board is difficult. Even if the board is difficult, you will be the highest in that board. Okay, that's for something. The difficulty of boards we'll keep for some other day. Okay, so this is another aspect that you need to keep in mind with respect to opinion making, and without this, it does not happen. Lastly, I would also want to tell you a beautiful story, like a very heart touching story. Of course, I have two, but before that, the examples I gave, Lavanya, Aditya, they were coming from great backgrounds. Obviously, they had great packages in corporate, and they of course had enough exposure in the college and in their workplaces where they were interning before. So speaking wasn't a problem. Like coming and speaking fluently in English wasn't a problem for them. Sure, they were stuck in their own challenges, but they could navigate thanks to the guidance. But there were students like him also, where this was also a challenge. Coming and speaking fluently for like 30-40 minutes with an average or good grammar was also a challenge. Forget opinion making, forget articulation, forget. Now, how do you start from there? How do you start from there? You only start when you trust the mentor and the guidance and the process. Simple, right? He was one of them. Nobody gave him a chance. I'm telling you, honestly telling you. You can ask him wherever he is. You can ask him. Nobody gave him a chance. He was, whenever he went to the mocks and everywhere, he uh, went for guidance. He was said that you are a 130, at the best 140, 120 student, right? And you have a lot to work upon. We kept on doing basic things like doing one-to-one, discussing the style of boards, discussing the style of questions, the area that questions can come in, and we kept on practicing that for like good 2-3 months. Simple. We just did one process, and you won't believe how much he scored. He scored 198. 198. A boy coming from Gazipur, the level of exposure he had. It was nothing compared to the previous students I had shown to you. So it's doable. That's the point I'm telling you. And the best part, humility. Humility wins every time. Every time. I mean, just one example I want to tell you. How many of us now write obediently? How many of us just use this word anymore in our letter writing or etc. etc. Right? You can sense that he means it. And probably the education system he's coming from, he has written obediently in his schools and not sincerely, right? So this is important. So this is a beautiful story for me because I know he came from this to this. Lavanya, Aditya were 180 plus already. I just had to work and fine tune them for 200 plus. This guy was nowhere, and at least 60, 70, 80 marks jump is commendable. Only because of these 198 marks, he's in the list. Simple. Okay. So, everybody of you, if you're thinking that I don't know how to speak well, I am not somebody who has had exposure of life, of colleges, of companies, don't worry. That is what mentorship does. One-to-one is not same for everyone. I'm not taking a generalized mentorship. I'm not saying that do only these things to everyone. Everybody is unique. Every individual is unique. My way of talking to everybody is unique, right? And that is why mentorship wins, and it will keep on winning, right? And I would definitely advise you to start this right now. Okay, fill the form, connect with me. I'll give you a call. And you just ask where you just write that down in the form where you're struggling with, and I'll give you a call soon. 100%. Right? And let's start the process. Simple. This is the form you might find in the description, in the pinned comment, right? Just fill it, and I'll give you a call, I'll give you a text. Humility wins 100%. Humility definitely wins. Answers has to come from your heart. You have to speak with conviction, with passion. It has to show, right? It cannot be a scripted answer. It cannot be a pleasing answer. It cannot be an answer that you are faking. Simple. Okay, only then you will score 190, 200 plus, etc. By the way, I and Lavanya targeted say 225. We were targeting 225 marks, so we were aiming stars 100% because she had the potential of 225, honestly. But she could reach to 210 at least, 209, 210, right? So you have to aim for the highest. Only then you will achieve the 200, 205, 210. And even if you are at 120, 130, please have a 180, 190 target. Only then you'll cross 170, 175, right? This is required for mains. Okay. So interviews are predictable. Interviews are definitely doable. Definitely doable. Right? 100%. My favorite story before we end this life is this guy. Everybody knows him. 100% blind, but making sure that he wins. Right? His knowledge, his articulation, his skills, unparalleled. When he came for the DAF filling process and everything, I was surprised. I was taken aback that how come somebody can have so many achievements despite facing a lot. I mean, his mother has faced so much in life that we can't imagine. Privileged people like us can never imagine. Coming from that background, that situation, making that your strength, achieving every academic record possible, gold medal in JNU and topper everywhere, net JRF, writing articles, such great articulation abilities in pol science, knows everything, Russia, Ukraine, what's happening in China, everything. I was definitely taken aback, and I knew from day one that this guy will be a ranker. He'll create history, and he did create history, of course. All India rank 91. So this is what mentorship can do. This is what hand-holding, mentorship, guidance, call it anything, but it really works. Okay, it really works, and I really want to do this with the current batch. I really want people for the next 3 months who really want to come and learn few things with respect to mentorship, interview mentorship. Please do fill the form and let me connect to you one to one. Right? If you have many more questions, 100% you can write that in the form only, and I'll give you a call or a WhatsApp text. Okay. Thank you so much, students, for taking out your time and spending your next this 40-45 minutes with me.